delete previous video. Calling this voiceover outro for micarta letter knife. So 1, 2, 3. So if you've been following me for any length of time, you know I'm quite a fan of Peter Brown. He does all manner of weird things with resin, and he has inspired me really to play about with resin and try some different things. Now I'm using this stuff, which is a polyester, not an epoxy, which is much cheaper. These two, I've got 2 bottles here for half the price that I'd spend on 1 bottle of the epoxy stuff, so it's a lot cheaper. It does have a bit of a smell to it. It doesn't smell awful, it smells chemical, if that makes any difference. It doesn't smell poisonous, although I'm wearing full protective gear anyway, just in case. So yeah, I have here a stack of around about 60 pieces of colour paper, and the one issue I've got that's kind of concerning me as I go through this process is speed, because even though I'm using half of the catalyst so that I've got longer pot life, I don't really have enough pot life to do this and do it slowly, essentially do it steadily. So I've got a nice big brush and I'm just layering this stuff on as fast as humanly possible, getting all the layers put together. I'm not concerned about bubbles at this point, I'm just slathering it on, layering up, and carry on. I've got gloves on, although I end up managing to put a hole in one finger and don't realise that till the end, which is slightly aggravating. I ended up with a little bit more resin than I needed, and by the time I'd gone and picked up something to embed in that resin, it had gone to jelly, so I think I just about got this layered and done in time. Now I'm using this kind of resin folder, which is essentially some sticky back plastic and 2 pieces of paper, just as a kind of a fold over protection essentially. And for something flat like this, I can just tuck that into a nice heavy book, and it adds all the clamping pressure you need without really worrying about trying to get it even, because the book has pretty much even pressure anyway, so that covers most things. So this initial set took better part of a week, and it came out really sticky, so that got me rather worried. So I kind of left it out of the folder for a couple of days, and an amount of the stickiness went, and I had a moment of doubt when I thought, should I try and cut this, should I just leave it or do something else? But in the end I persevered, and towards the end of a long day of scroll sawing, I'd stuck it through the machine and just cut out the basic shape I was going with. This isn't the final shape that I was intending. I expected this to be a complete fail at this point, so I just thought I'd use a shape that I'd worked on before. So it's very basic, very rounded shape, and it cut really nicely. Obviously the black surfaces either side are a little tacky still, but once they're covered in tape it doesn't really matter. And it cut really nicely on the scroll saw, so at least that's good. And it feels solid, it feels like a nice piece of plywood or something like that. It's got that kind of density to it. And then on to the sanding. Now I started on the kind of sanding belt, and that was a little slow for me, so I ended up going on to the grinder, which worked. It cut really well, but it was difficult to keep it even, keep it tidy, so I ended up with a really ridged, uneven cut. Although that causes a great effect, and you can see the layers of the paper in the blade. So a good thing on one side and not so good on the other. I then had to go on to using my Dremel with a sanding barrel and just kind of even that up, tidy that up as much as possible. And I decided to do kind of an eye hole in the middle, just kind of a test to see how it would sand essentially like that. So I'm cutting in from both sides, on an angle so I can get the layers and then go through. And in the end it came out a mess, but I kind of expected it. I wasn't trying to make it that neat, but it works. So yeah, then moving on to giving it a top coat, and as I started with resin I continued with resin, and it's really great. You can see the colours really pop out with the kind of just a single coat of resin on. I was concerned that all the scratches and whatnot from sanding would show, but they really don't. It's really vibrant. And I'm also doing a little side mould, which is a whole load of sweet wrappers essentially, and it's my intention to make some jewellery out of this at some point. But just for now, I knew I'd poured too much resin and didn't want to pour it back in the cup, so I decided to do something with it. So yeah, this has now had pretty much a week to completely react and do its thing. This block it's set and solid on the kind of the mould side, but on the top it's still slightly tacky. I'm not sure what that means, but it seems solid. Rock hard otherwise. You can't see through, you can get a little bit through, but my intention is to cut slivers off like that, and then you'll get the layers of colour in that direction. So that works really well. I've got a whole load of sweet wrappers sitting in a jar over there, and that'll come in handy actually for using up excess resin at the end of a project. But down to my paper knife. Now this has still got quite a bit of stickiness to it, and I'm not sure what I've done wrong. I think it's because it's a casting resin, not really a coating resin. Perhaps the layer is too thin for it to properly react. So it's got a real stickiness to it, a tackiness that I don't particularly like. So well, it's still rock hard and solid, and it's kept the edge, although I've got a little drip right at the point here, so I don't have a sharp point anymore, but that's okay. I just want to get rid of the stickiness. Now I'm not sure whether I should try another layer of resin or give it a spray of varnish. I'm not entirely sure. I think the spray varnish might be the better option because I don't want to be mixing up any more resin at the moment, but I don't know. So at the minute I'm calling it half a fail. I don't know where I've gone wrong, and that aggravates me, because I've gotten quite good at using the epoxy resin and getting that mixed correctly, but this is just not quite right. Albeit it's not the design I was intending to use, it was just kind of a throwaway have a go design, but it still come out really good. It's a bit garish, but it's a kind of thing that you want to be visible on your desk so you don't lose it like I would. So yeah, I'm going to give it a spray, probably a couple of layers of spray varnish just to get rid of this tackiness, and hopefully that'll be ready for use really. I think I'm going to leave my little dibble drop on the end here. So I've got plenty of edge. It's not sharp, but that's sharp enough to cut paper. So yeah, I'm calling this half a fail. It still works. It's still a paper knife in my micarta, and you can still see all the layers of paper and that kind of damask steel kind of look. So I like it, and I'll probably do some more, and maybe even some jewellery out of this once I can work out how to stop it from going sticky. So that's this project complete, and I'll see you again next week.